Hey, Julian. Yeah, what's up? What's that phrase about doctors? You mean eat an apple a day keeps the doctor away? No. Obviously fruit is good for you and you absolutely should eat apples. But if you don't see a doctor, you're a moron. What's the phrase that actually makes sense? Oh, right, the real one. You mean Dr. Greg every day keeps the unwanted excess pounds away. Alright, so you might notice that I am not wearing a shirt again. And for those of you who've watched my channel before, you know that means today we are making something that is healthy but does not suck. Some of you might know who Dr. Greg is. For those of you who don't, first and the most important thing is that he's in fact...
I am not a doctor.
Basically across from Crixus from Spartacus and the parrot from Aladdin. He's a professional bodybuilder, and in general, he spreads amazing knowledge on YouTube.
Subscribe, click the bell button, you know what to do. Don't just do it later, do it now, do it!
And he's actually been somebody who I've heavily listened to over the last little under 2 years as I've lost weight and put on muscle and gained strength. I really like his philosophy of train harder than last time. What's relevant for here and today is he has a bunch of absolutely fantastic videos where he makes some really tasty food that works on a weight loss diet. He'll be the first one to tell you that he's in fact not a chef. But being a chef myself, I'll be the first one to tell you that you do not have to be a chef to make absolutely yummy, tasting, amazing food. We're going to take his favorite recipe and the most well-known one and not just remake it, but we're going to put my fancy spin on it. His is great. I make his recipe all the time. But every now and then we need something special or something that stands out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to take some of his philosophies in keeping things low calorie dense, but put my flair on it. As others have pointed out, it's not complicated. As you may know from my KISS series, Keep It Simple Stupid, good food does not have to be complicated. Alright, so with that in mind, let's make some anabolic French toast. Alrighty now, let's get started with our prep. First thing we're going to do is whip up some cream cheese. Take your reduced fat or preferably fat-free cream cheese out of the fridge. Let it come up to room temp as to make it easier to work with. Then throw it into a mixing bowl with a whisk attachment. You can also use a hand mixer if you want. Put that into a mixer and whip it good. Whip it real good. Incorporating a whole bunch of air, we're trying to increase the volume. Once it becomes nice, big, and fluffy.
He's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!
We're going to add almond milk or some other low-cal milk of your choice, vanilla protein powder, vanilla extract, and stevia because it has a 0 calories. Well, not a 0, but very few, and no, it ain't gonna give you cancer. And we're gonna let that rip again until it becomes even more voluminous. Once that's done, we're gonna take that mixture, transfer it into a piping bag, set that aside, and move on to the next task. Quick tip, whenever you load anything into a piping bag ever, you wanna bend the edges back so that way it doesn't get super gunky as you pour it in. Next up, I'm gonna take a whole bunch of frozen berries that I let thaw out, and we're gonna chuck them into a blender with a couple teaspoons of xanthan gum. We're gonna let it rip in the blender until it's thickened, and if it doesn't quite thicken up enough, we're gonna add just a little bit more xanthan gum as we go. Now, you might be wondering, why are we using frozen berries versus fresh? Because they're cheaper and you ain't gonna notice a difference after they get pureed down in the blender. But your wallet will definitely thank you for making this substitution. Oh, and before Greg said, Vitamixes are terrible, you should have a Ninja. I got this for under $200 used like 5 years ago. There's a reason why they are the standard in restaurants, and that's because they have amazing power, but also give you incredible control.
Not about how fast and how hard you go. Sometimes slower is better.
To make the filling for the French toast, we are going to combine the powdered nut butter of your choice. Now, you can use PB2. I'm choosing to use almond butter because I hate peanut butter because I'm inherently a horrible human being. You want to be using a powdered version instead of regular normal ass peanut butter or almond butter because it has significantly fewer calories. To that, we are going to add a bit of chocolate protein powder, cocoa powder, stevia because it has a 0 calories. Give that a good mix, then add in a splash of almond milk just to bring it all together, and yes, it will look like poop. To assemble our stuffed French toast, we are going to take a couple slices of plain ass normal white bread and put a giant spoonful of our mixture that looks like poop, but that actually tastes amazing right in the center of it. Hit the edges with just a little bit of egg white as to help seal it. Put another piece of normal white bread directly on top. and then use our finger as to push down the edges as to help create a seal. Then we are going to work around those same edges using a fork as to crimp it all. If you're inherently a fat man like me and want more than one of these, do this for a second piece of stuffed French toast. The last bit of prep we need to do is make our batter, and we're going to do that by combining some egg whites with stevia, cinnamon, and vanilla extract. Give it a good whisk, and we're done. Now, you can go ahead and do the fire steps right now, but you can do all of this ahead of time, have it ready to go, so you only need to do minimal work when you want your tasty breakfast. All right, when you're ready to put all of this together, we are going to take a pan, put it over medium heat, and then once it comes up to temp, we are going to hit it with a little bit of cooking spray. Now, the cooking spray says 0 calories, but we all know that's a lie because they round down. Soak your French toast in your batter, flip it over, and it really should be at the point where it's almost falling apart. Then put it down into the pan and let it go. Once it becomes golden brown, flip it to the other side, and again, let it cook for a little bit, but then we're gonna wing it into the oven. Now, with normal ass French toast, you don't really need to do this, but because this is thicker, we really wanna make sure that the eggs cook through, so putting it in the oven for a couple minutes is really ideal. While your French toast finishes up in the oven, we're gonna cut a couple strawberries. Now remember, it's not the size of your strawberries, it's how you cut them. So we're gonna set those aside, and we're also gonna pull out a couple other berries and the rest of our prep, and it is time to plate everything. Grab our fancy plate that we got for $5 at Target, and we're gonna put a dot of the berry puree on one of the corners, and then we're going to swipe it across the rest of the plate so we have a nice even line. Then we're going to take our French toast out of the oven, and we're going to cut it diagonally across as to show that beautiful filling that we have in there. We are going to shingle the French toast across our plate, following the line of the berry puree, as to keep things in a nice organized way. Then we are going to dot around the French toast, keeping it pretty tight to it, with more of the berry puree and a whole bunch of that cream cheese mixture. Once all that is down there, we're gonna throw on a whole bunch of berries. In this case, I have strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries, but feel free to use whatever you want. We are going to add just a little bit of sugar-free syrup. Now, you can use a lot more than this. I normally do. I only have a little bit on there because it looks way better for the pictures for the video. Feel free to drown that sucker. All right, now let's enjoy this thing. One quick thing, I did forget one small ingredient when I was plating, which is fancy finishing salt. Now, I have black lava salt. Now, you might not think of, oh, I want a breakfast sweet thing, I want salt. But trust me, having just that, not a lot, but a little bit of flaky salt of some kind will really just set this thing off. All right, now time to dig in. Now, normally it'd be hot and gooey. I had to spend a while taking pictures, but let's go. All right, some Nutella, some of the cream cheese, some berries. It's fucking dessert. This eats like a dessert. Now, one thing I will say is you can vary the sweetness by choosing how much stevia you have in powdered nut and chocolate mixture you have in there. I did a little bit less just to balance out, you know, the sweetness of the syrup and the cream cheese. But, you know, if you have like an extreme sweet tooth, you can do more, Greg. With that all in mind, I'm gonna go house this thing. You probably don't want to sit there and watch me do this entire thing. However, before you go, share this with people who you think might find this helpful. Let me know what kind of foods you want to see in future, whether that just be normal foods that you want to see fancy versions of, or if you want to see reimaginations of other dishes, whether that be by Dr. Greg or somebody else. You know, it could be healthy food, it can be not. You know, I'm gonna do all sorts of stuff. Just, you know, let me know. Subscribe, hit the bell button, turn on all notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. Give this a shot and let me know how it turns out. I'll see you next time.